Well, we are continuing this trend of the Princeton pipeline today. Chris Mooney is with us. I had a guy who coached him at Princeton earlier today on the podcast, and Joe Scott. Both of those guys did big things with Princeton and are continuing to do big things in college basketball right now. Chris, currently the head coach at Richmond, the winningest coach in program history. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. And before we dive into all things spiders, Chris, what is your instant recollection of having Joe be your assistant coach when you were playing at Princeton?
Intensity would be the first thing that would come to mind. He certainly, he had been a great player at Princeton, and we knew him. He would come back and play pickup and be around in the summer, and then he got the job as the assistant, and he just had great intensity. I feel like he really tried to help guys before practice, after practice, just work on specific things, skill work. I think he helped a lot of guys become really good players in his role there at Princeton, and definitely remember him well in terms of the intensity that he brought to practice every day.
That's undoubtedly been able to rub off on you as far as looking at your body of work and what you've done at Richmond. For those of us outside of the atmosphere of the Atlantic 10, characterize the unique, I guess, energy of the fan base that you're dealing with, because they really love Richmond basketball.
Yeah, Richmond has a great fan base. We have really good tradition, and the interesting thing about the Spiders is it's a school of about 3,000 students, 3,000 undergraduate students, and our arena seats 7,000, and we probably have more than 3,000 season ticket holders. So there's a great tradition. We have a great arena on a beautiful campus, and they're really into Richmond basketball. I think they appreciate some of the great coaches we've had in the past, like Dick Tarrant, John Beeline, and I think they really appreciate a particular style of play that matches with the university. And they've been great fans, and hopefully we'll have them this year in person a little bit, so that they can help us get some wins.
Well, you had a lot of wins last year, and you are due to have a lot of wins this year. What's an element of Spider basketball, Chris, that you feel like doesn't get enough respect?
Well, I would probably say there's a toughness to the team. I feel like, I've been here so long now that we've had teams that really excelled shooting the ball, teams that really have excelled defensively. But I think the constant has been there's been a toughness. College basketball is a hard and challenging game, and you have to be very tough to be able to play. And that's if you play, we're trying to play a very fluid offense and play a finesse style of game. You still have to be very tough to be able to do that, to be able to make the right decision under pressure, to be able to have an understanding of what's going on when the stakes are high. And I think the toughness of the team has been pretty consistent, and I think that'd be something that we overlook because of our offense or because of something like that. It doesn't feel that way maybe all the time.
Why have you remained so loyal to this program for all these years?
My wife and I think we just love it here. There's a great commitment to Spider basketball. We've renovated our arena a few years ago. We're about to open a practice facility that's state of the art. We travel great. We have a great budget. We have great support. So we've just loved Richmond. And when we've had the opportunity to look at other places, Richmond not only being home for us and our two boys, there's a promise here. And I also think we fit how Richmond wants to have their basketball program represented. I feel like we're in sync there. And I feel like we don't have to compromise very much in order to recruit good players and do well.
Chris Mooney is with us, head coach for Richmond. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. As you look back at what you've done here at Richmond for more than a decade, what's the most significant tears of joy moment that you can recall or remember?
That's a great question. That's really a great question. I think when Xavier was in the A10, one that comes to mind, um, they came in ranked, and we were getting good. We hadn't really been good yet. Maybe it was our third or fourth season, and they were, off the charts good. They were great.
Sure.
Sean Miller was the coach, and we beat them here in the Robins Center on a Saturday afternoon. And I think the next day, watching highlights of the game, I think I had that moment where it was just like, wow, that's pretty significant. Anybody that beat Xavier, but for us, it had represented, the previous years we had played them, we did not belong. And so to get to be good enough to compete and even win the game, I felt like that was a moment that was like, wow, that was very special.
And the moment you took over this job, right, Chris? I read that at one point at the end of the season, you had only 7 scholarship guys and you didn't really have any guards. So you had a whole lot to build from when you got here.
We did actually the whole season. We had 7 scholarship players.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had a freshman walk-on from Chicago named Duncan McLean, who was actually a very good player, who played about 20 minutes a game as a freshman, 5'10" walk-on. And yeah, it was just an interesting time. I mean, you see it more now when there's a coaching change. There's massive turnover, and we had some of that turnover. Got the job a little bit later for the time. It was May. Now that might just be the beginning of the transfer portal, but at the time there weren't as many guys available, and it was hard to replace those guys. And Richmond is a school that has admission standards, and it was kind of a recipe to be tough for the first couple of years, and it was. But again, that was the guys that we recruited early, who took a lot of lumps along the way, became really key pieces of great teams. And I'm glad it happened that way, even though it was difficult at the time to go through it.
I want to ask you about the confidence you have in yourself, because you came into last year with 2 seasons where that that's not Chris Mooney basketball, where you can play a lot better. Then this past season comes and you have some of your best basketball you've had while at the helm of Richmond. And there were people that were like, yeah, this, that. And you said, I know I can turn this thing around. And then look what you did, getting them to, what was it, 24-7 on the season. Definitely would have been in the NCAA tournament if the season wasn't cut short. The belief in yourself, despite some of those obstacles that you faced the last couple years, what does that say about you and what you can get done in the face of adversity?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like I think there is confidence in myself, but I think there's confidence in the habits and the culture that we've built here at the program. So then that involves everybody. And so, it's tough to lose. Athletics is different than most things. There are no win-win. You don't go to the arena that night and both teams come away feeling good. And we had not won enough the previous 2 years. And, and the responsibility is mine. And there are some things that happen during the course of a college season that proved to be difficult for us to overcome. I think we were confident because of the work we had put in. We had some guys who had been injured, set to come back. We had a transfer sitting out who we knew was good. And we had 2 players who were all league as sophomores. That's really unique on a 15-person all-league team. 2 guys who were sophomores on a team that didn't do very well.
Sure.
So we knew we had a good foundation. And those guys never, it wasn't like during those the 2 hard seasons, there weren't, closed door meetings or, begging guys to do anything. I mean, it was just trying to work and probably being just a little too young or not quite deep enough or whatever it is to win games. And so we did have confidence, and we also had confidence from the important people at Richmond, the administration, the athletic director. And we knew, you can feel it because the maturity of the team that we were gaining, it's probably good individually to go through some hardship on the court because it makes you focus that much more. And then the talent level that we were going to have returning. So all of those things combined made us pretty confident.
How big was your smile when you got to return to the Robins Center after the 138 days of not being able to be with your guys in that hiatus?
Great question. That was really elation. I mean, we were just, so much. First of all, the season got cut so short. Not only the season got cut short, but then the guys went home
Sure.
the next day. And so all the Zoom calls and all the texts and all that doesn't really, that can't replace the energy of a team. And then to get back and to have the guys and do workouts and be in the gym and hanging out, socially distanced, of course, all of those things, it's just great. It's wonderful.
Sure.
And the energy that you have, from that is indescribable.
I love it. I can only imagine. I almost get goosebumps listening to you talk like that, just that moment, and knowing how long it had been when your team had not been able to be in person together. Chris Mooney with us, head coach for Richmond. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. And, you think about the mental health and just being able to have the guys together, and how important that is for their mental health, coach. And how have you been able to be like an emotional backbone for these guys during these last couple months where they can come to you and talk about things and just know that you really care about them?
Well, it was hard because all of us are struggling through this together. It's not the kind of thing you can fix. And
Sure.
a lot of times in coaching with young people, we're talking about overcoming adversity. This is one that you can't specifically fix or work on or improve.
Sure.
That was really tough. And I think, like everybody, the guys had ups and downs, much more so than they would if they were on campus in the off season, working on basketball, taking care of their academics. So in that regard, I think they needed as much support from us as we possibly could. And we tried to make sure our communication was very prevalent,
Sure.
and impactful, not just checking in, but really kind of seeing how they were doing and how their families were doing. And everybody had a different situation. Some areas of the country at the time maybe were far less stringent. Some areas of the country, or one particular player's parent might have been very strict about it. Others, so everybody's dealing with it a little bit differently.
Sure.
But that was tough. And that really, I think it took a toll on everybody, to be honest with you, and continues to.
Sure. Looking optimistically towards next season, and you are going to have a stacked team. You've got a lot of those seniors that are going to be back. Looking at guys like Connor Crabtree, who is returning from an injury, and he had not been able to play for, what was it, a year, coach? And then Jacob Gilliard. And so I want to get to key pieces at your disposal this upcoming season that you are super excited about.
Well, all of them. We have 5 seniors who 4 of them are over 1,000 points in their career. That's pretty rare.
It's amazing.
Pretty rare numbers. And then we really like our classes below those guys too. They'll obviously carry the water for the most part. But we have a great player named Tyler Burton, who's a sophomore. Had a very good freshman year. Probably, he was on a great team, so he didn't play maybe as much as he would have on a lesser team. But I think Tyler is going to be one of the great players in the history of Richmond basketball. And he came back and looks terrific and will really push those seniors. Connor Crabtree, an opportunity to play for him after missing a year. So we feel like our depth is really good, and our maturity and our senior leadership, those things are in an excellent place.
My final question for you, coach, and again, so grateful to have you a part of this. This has been a blast, and I love the backdrop. If only I got to see, there's all individual memories with all those photos that mean so much to you, and all the basketballs. I love it. And that is, what can you get accomplished in practices right now? Because things are still limited, but the work that you can do, what does that look like tangibly?
Yeah, great question, Brian. I think the biggest thing I think you're trying to do is build great habits.
Sure.
And so, you had Joe on earlier. I think Joe is probably one of the best in the country at this, just building great habits every day. And so you're trying to have a clear mind when you're out there. You're trying to listen to the coaching and the criticism and apply it. You're trying to not be upset if you miss a shot, but kind of grit your teeth and go and try to make the next one. You're trying to sprint a little bit faster than you did the time before. So I feel like that hasn't changed dramatically. The uncertainty and the talk about the football teams, those kinds of things are swirling. But I feel like at this time of the year, you're trying to build great habits. You're really trying to do that to the freshmen, have them understand how much faster, more physical, more demanding college basketball is. And then with your upperclassmen, I think you're trying to, rebuild those great habits. We're at such a high toward the end of the season, and now you come back trying to get yourself in better shape and trying to do all these things. But I think you're trying to make sure those habits are as great as possible.
Because as soon as that green light hits, you are going to be ready because you've set those habits in place, and it's not some surprise like, oh my goodness, we've got to get ready to play. We've got to get organized, where you have already set the tone here. And when play begins, your team is going to flourish, and I will be watching and loving it. Chris Mooney, thank you so much for coming on. I'm Bryan Fenley. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate being on.